So welcome everyone. Today's webinar, Marketing Through Social Media. Some housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. A recording will be available on our website, www.sanpabloedc.org. Any resources mentioned during the presentation will also be available on our website. All attendees are muted. If you are having issues with audio, you may need to click on the webinar screen to enable audio. We welcome your questions. Please type them in the Q&A box. We will answer them at the end of the webinar if time permits. A little bit about the San Pablo EDC. The mission of the San Pablo Economic Development Corporation is to act as a catalyst for equitable economic opportunity. Some programs and services we offer, it's the advancement to focus on employment training and support, home ownership, business resources, and access to capital. If you want to learn more, you can visit our website at www.sanpabloedc.org. Introducing our partners today, we have Janet Castillo, CEO at the Castillo's Mexican Restaurant. A little bit about Janet and the restaurant. The restaurant was founded in 2004 by Javier Castillo, a chef from Puebla, Mexico, who wanted to bring traditional Mexican flavor to southern San Jose. After more than a decade, Castillo is still a family restaurant. Javier's daughter, Janet, started working alongside her dad in 2019 as the CEO. Alexandra Cespedes Kent, Director of Communications and Marketing at Voler Strategic Advisors. Voler Strategic Advisors is a full-service strategic communications firm offering public relations, crisis management, and communication strategies that help organizations achieve their full potential. Headquartered in San Jose, Voler believes that great communications drive great results. We also have Theo Mendoza, brand therapist, the Prosperity Lab. The Prosperity Lab works to enable historically disinvested communities, women, and micro enterprises to become prosperous. They work in Silicon Valley and the greater San Francisco Bay Area by developing and delivering impactful programs and innovating solutions. With that, I'll pass along to Alexandra.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I just want to spend a moment going over the goals of today's webinar. So we're all here today because we want to empower small business owners, especially those in San Pablo, to harness social media to attract more customers. And so to lead this hour, what we thought we'd do was bring together a few different people. One is Theo Mendoza, who's a brand advisor, and he specializes in working with small businesses to help them market themselves effectively. We also have Jeanette, who's a restaurant owner, and as she'll tell you, she came to her leadership role right before the pandemic, and I'm sure, like a lot of you, had to really think on her feet and get creative about marketing. And she will share with us some of her experiences using social media, and she might even post live with all of us watching today. And then I'm going to go over some of the basics about social media. Some things like what can it cost to pay for more reach, for more people to see your posts. I will also cover ideas for possible messages you might want to create as you start posting to social media. And we're going to talk about mistakes to avoid. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Theo, who's going to spend a little time interviewing Jeanette.
Hello, everyone. My name is Theo Mendoza from San Jose, California, and I'm a brand therapist. My goal is to ultimately bring small business entrepreneurs, breakthrough entrepreneurs, the clarity and the confidence they need to transition their business into a brand. In my experience, a brand definitely brings the whole thing to life. It carries a personality, carries a voice, carries a visual, and all together, you have an effective brand when you're using all these pieces correctly. So one of the things I wanted to do, because social media is definitely an overwhelming place. There's tons of content out there, tons of ways you could go about it. And what I've learned is that when you sort of take a step back and look at your business and what it represents, your values, your target audience, who's in there, either who's in there a lot or who are you wanting to attract more of, you sort of put yourself in their position and identify with them and try to relate to them as much as possible through your brand voice. So I definitely wanted to take this opportunity to kind of real life experience, showcase Castillo's Mexican restaurant and kind of pick out little bits and pieces of the different, things that she may or they may be thinking about as a restaurant, as a brand, to develop this community and to welcome and attract the right folks. So Jeanette, I see Castillo's Mexican restaurant. Your tagline is a real taste of Mexico. It sounds like your dad was the chef in Pueblo, or?
That's correct. So he's been working as a chef for more than 20 years here in the US and in Puebla, Mexico. He didn't come here with, with all the money or everything in order to already open a business. He worked in restaurants before opening Castillo restaurant. And he saved up a lot of money over a long period of time. And at some point, because of the motivation and push from other people that were guiding him, to open a restaurant, he decided to open it in 2004.
Absolutely. And so just purely off of seeing what you presented and your brand and your social media so far, you're wanting to replicate those flavors that your dad has traditionally cooked with in his hometown and bring that out and sort of recreate this experience. Now, were you a part of the logo and the rebranding process for the restaurant? Because I definitely see,
I was.
Some of the traditional brush strokes from like a Talavera and things like that. Is there anything that you considered when working with someone to make this logo? Were there important values or key things that you wanted to really stand out or represent with this logo?
Yes, so I definitely wanted to represent a little bit of our culture, our traditions, bring that to life, because I am the connection between my parents and my family back in Mexico. I was the one that was able to go back and forth, travel to Mexico, visit my grandparents, connect with my family back there. And what shocked me the most was Mexico has a lot of culture, a lot of traditions and colors. Each state has their own unique either style of items that they use in order to represent their food, or even a meal that they specifically are known for. And when I was in Mexico, and I visited Puebla, Mexico, that's one of the things that I noticed, that Talavera style of, I actually have it, I don't know if you're able to see it. I have some in the walls right now, in the restaurant, and I included it into my logo, because I wanted to showcase that and bring that to the restaurant. And one of the things too is that our family, we work here. This is a family owned and operated restaurant. My cousin she lives in Mexico, she helped me with the design of the logo. She is a graphic designer. So my family, we all contribute in one way or another to this restaurant.
Beautiful. Yes, I could definitely pick up on, I wish we had the example up here, but I could definitely pick up on the traditional aspect of it. And it sounds like, between you and the designer and your family, you're able to modernize a little bit some of the colors and the flavors of the culture. I'm based on what I'm seeing, I'm definitely seeing a lot of traditional aspect. I love the fact that you're saying things like family oriented, family owned and operated, because the colors and the playfulness of the logo definitely lends itself to being family oriented you know, I would very much so love to bring my family. Actually have brought my family to this place, to your restaurant in the past, and for sure, it definitely reminded me of you know, a home style meal, and very comforting, and in that sense. So yeah, I think that's where, you know, for me, I pay attention to those things because they become subconscious for your target audience and how they react to it, and naturally versus forcing them. So when you think about your target audience and, you know, the people that you sort of cater to the most or see the most come in, you know, what kind of things are sort of common in the type of people that come into the restaurant?
So I noticed that we get a lot of families. Um, a lot of people that are retired also come in and they bring their own, you know, their families afterwards. They like it so much that they recommend, you know, to their own people. And one of the things here too is that our mission here at the restaurant is to bring families and friends closer by creating a stronger bond, in the sense that we provide a Mexican home style meal that they can share and eat together.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of the pieces and the things that you're talking about support that. And I could imagine, you know, with this information, it becomes a little easier to manage what type of content and what it looks like, who you're talking to, especially when it comes to ads and things like that. So yeah, I think that's a great way to tie in your values, your mission, and your brand together.
Thank you. And then one thing to add to that, in terms of our values, we value a lot of, you know, the respect, the quality, the passion that we have here at the restaurant. I always tell my staff, anything that you do it from the bottom of your heart. Just a few years ago, we changed our slogan to food from our heart, just because we want to showcase, we want to bring that out to our guests, you know, the people that come into the door. We want them to know that everything that we do it here with passion. We do it with love. And that's one of the things that my dad, my mom, they've always promoted here at the restaurant. When you don't see my dad in the kitchen, he'll come out and greet, you know, the guests, the customers. And it's just the sense of warmth, the sense of belonging. It just gives you a a safe space, an environment where you can bring your family, you can have your family parties here, and everyone feels just welcome and comfortable to come and eat here. And that's what we do.
Beautiful. I love it. Love to hear it.
So I am going to join in the conversation here. I'm curious, Jeanette, you know, in terms of taking those values and, you know, the thought you put into your logo and the experience you want your customers to have. What are some of the things that you feel have been most important about your social media content? What do you have as a goal, and how do you get to that goal?
Yeah, my goal for social media has always been to create partnerships, to create collabs, in order to create opportunities for our community. That is whether we give, we fundraise for new, let's just say, school supplies for a classroom, or fundraise money for, like, for example, we did one with, I believe it was Alzheimer's or cancer, just to, you know, raise awareness. And pretty much what we try to do here is give opportunities for our community. Try to lift up those small businesses as well, because in the past I've done pop-ups. I don't know if you noticed on my social media, during the pandemic, when I had more time, I was able to to collab with many small business owners that are still really well known today. And what I love about that is that here at the restaurant, it's very hard for me to go out, you know, especially during the weekends. It's usually busy. And those are the moments when people want to come out, when they have, you know, their time with their families. And what I did was pretty much bring an event or create the event to come to me. So that way I was able to also join in, to also support and buy from those small local businesses.
So I appreciate hearing that I imagine you also self-promote the restaurant on your social media, but that you've kind of taken a broader view and decided that you want to support causes and businesses that kind of represent the community you're in. In terms of promoting the restaurant, what are some of the ways you've done that?
So, like I mentioned before, I've done many fundraisers. I've done collaborations where I like to create giveaways where I either give like, you know, a $100 gift card, and the other business gives, let's just say, a dozen of cookies, or we pretty much come together and do that giveaway, not just to give thanks to our customers, but also to use social media to bring in more customers. So it helps us both ways, right? It's giving thanks to the customer, but then at the same time, we're also getting more followers, people, you know, liking our stories, people sharing the post, and that creates more traffic into our business as well.
So I'm curious how do you know your social media works for you?
So there's few ways that I can see. So one is by physically going into the post, I can see how many people clicked on, let's just say, the video, or how many people liked it, how many people shared the video. And then the second way is when I'm here at the restaurant, and let's just say I post a albondiga soup. That day would be, from all the other days, we would be selling that soup the most. So it connects. So by the views and by everything that I'm able to see on my social media platform, on my back end, I'm also seeing it here in person when I'm at the restaurant. And I'm able to see, okay, what are people ordering the most? And then I'm able to obviously, you know, take the order, or I'm able to see what was sold the most during the day. So those are the two ways that I am able to see that my posts are actually working. And sometimes when the customer decides to order something that I posted, I actually like to ask, like, oh, where did you see this? Or where, how did you hear about us? So I do like to, you know, ask as well, just to have a little insight of like, oh, did he see my post? So yeah, that's pretty much the two ways that I'm able to figure out that it is working.
And I'm curious, how much do your posts vary? Like, do you have like kind of 3 styles of posts that you really like to use, or how, when you're thinking of the types of posts you put up, how would you describe it?
They do vary, because some posts are gonna have, let's just say, a promo code or a discount or a special meal. And then other posts are gonna talk about fundraisers, or they're gonna talk about collabs. So I like to include a little bit of everything. I like to create events. That's like one of my purposes. My purpose here at the restaurant is, like I said, I want to bring the community closer. And what I like to do is create events. So that's those are one of the things that I post also on my social media. When we have a special a celebration, I like to create a discount or bring in performers, singers, that sort of thing.
Great. And I see here on the slide that, for example, the first post on the left is about a local elementary school, and it looks like it's a fundraiser. And the second one, you're highlighting a mimosa that you're offering all day. And the third is a really beautiful photo of some of your dishes. And then the last one here is a promo code. So I'm curious, how do you decide, if at all, to spend money on boosting your posts? So like, do you ever pay, for example, Meta, the owners of Facebook and Instagram, to get your posts out to specific members of your community? How much do you spend? And if you do that, like, what do you look for in your ads? Like, who do you want it to go to?
Yeah, so what I do is, it depends. If I know that my post will be shared by many people, and that is when I do collabs or I do pop-up events where there's multiple people that are going to be showing that post, then I decide to not purchase or do the ads, run the ads. But when it's just our business on its own, like for example, for Cinco de Mayo, that we brought in mariachi and folklorico dancers, I wanted to make sure that we were going to have a good amount, of guests coming in. So I decided to create an ad. I believe it was roughly $5 per day for 4 days. I ended up creating like a target audience. So technically I arranged it by age group and by location. So I targeted Campbell, all the nearby cities. I believe I did Morgan Hill, Milpitas, of course San Jose. And then the age group, I wanted to do like, I believe I put 25 to like 65 or something like that. And what I'm able to see on my back end, it actually shows how many the age group that were able to, or the age group that actually clicked on it the most. And that was it was 35 to 45. That was the age group that had the highest percentage in looking at our ad.
And I'm curious too, thinking back to when you first started posting to today, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned?
So one of the biggest lessons is that always be open to new opportunities and always ask for help. So just recently, we partner up with a new delivery service. They're called Spruno. And the reason why I wanted to join Spruno was because one, they had less delivery fees. And then two, I kind of want to get rid of the other delivery services that are not giving me much orders. So I did want to try something new. And then one of the things that ended up happening, which was I had no clue that this was gonna happen. They actually interviewed us and we created like a video, and they've been creating videos for us, which is really nice because that also, it helps us a lot. And at the same time, it helps them also promote their delivery service.
That's great. So you've kind of found ways to partner and learn from your partners, and also interchange kind of skill sets. So they create videos, and that's really wonderful. So I think to wrap it up, and you'll stay on with us to kind of offer your perspective. I'm sorry.
Before we move on, we have a question from the audience. We
Great.
want to answer live. So April Rivas asked, what posting schedule do you find most helpful when promoting an event for people to attend and engage?
So I just pretty much try to post during like the first few hours of the day. So whether that's, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., all the way to like 12 p.m. Always try to do it when, people are using social media the most. Try to, do your research as well, right? Every business has their own target, their own audience, that maybe instead of them looking at their phone during the day, they're looking at it during the night. But for what has helped me the most for me was posting right in the beginning of the day. That way, you start off fresh. People are probably scrolling, looking through their phone in the morning. And then always try to, if you're going to create an ad, try to do it 2 weeks before, because sometimes Facebook or Instagram, they take a few days. I don't know if it's 1 or 2 or 3 days for them to actually approve the post. So you want to make sure that you give yourself enough time to create that ad, and then post it, so that once Facebook or Instagram has approved it, it'll go live when you need it to be.
Great. So I'm just going to summarize a couple things, and then we'll move on to a couple other sections of the day. But one is that from Theo's perspective, it's important to really know your business, what you want to communicate, what your values and special attributes are. And then to, think about your audience in a very specific way. So, for example, Jeanette has it down to age categories and location, because I heard this from Theo earlier when we were preparing, that he said, if you're advertising to everyone, you're advertising to no one. So in some ways, really getting that profile of your customer base and figuring out, what do they like? What do they want to hear from me about? And then Jeanette's kind of put it into practice, and has a variety of ways that she posts. And she's learned to sometimes use ads. You had mentioned $5 a day for 4 days. So it sounds like you can invest $20 and get it
Yeah.
out to new people. And then one last question I have for you, Jeanette, before we kind of go into a presentation I'm going to give about some basics that I want everyone to know, whether they're in the restaurant business or not. What's your philosophy about responding to people who either comment on your posts or send you messages? Like, do you respond? Do you ignore them? Have you ever gotten like a negative comment? What do you do in that situation?
Yeah, so I definitely always try to respond to all comments, whether they're good or bad. Always politely reply. I just recently got a review on Yelp where the customer was saying that he's very picky. He loves Mexican food, but he's really picky, and he loved her enchilada rojas. And I responded by saying pretty much just mimicking what he said. And I said, thank you so much. The enchilada rojas are a must try. And he mentioned something about his dog, so I wanted to bring that up too, because we love dogs here, like who doesn't like to pet a dog? So I responded, and also when it's negative comments, you always want to hear what their complaint is about, because what they're actually telling you is, this is what needs to be changed, or this is what needs to be improved. And I take it as, yes, right? Like that's, if you didn't like this about your meal, then we're definitely going to take it into account and make sure that we don't do it that way next time, or we improve it for the next time, right? So always take in those comments. as a lesson, lesson learned. And I'm a customer myself. I always go out and dine in at restaurants. You want to make sure that the customer is being heard and you're also replying to those complaints or to those or the nice reviews too, right? Because they're literally giving you free promotion by them giving you a nice review or commenting on your video or your posts, whether it's good or bad. You always want to make sure that you keep that connection with your guests and show them that we're people too, just like them, right? Like we want to make sure that we will definitely resolve any issues, that come our way.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing your experience. And I know you're going to stay on with us, especially because we're going to have a Q&A period at the end. So I'm ready to move to the next slide. And I'm curious if those of you who are watching could type into the chat what type of business you run. And then, also mention yes or no in terms of, are you using social media to promote your business? Yes. And if you're not, please put no. And then Marco will, I'm sure, share some of the results with us. While we get that information, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the next slide. What we're going to do here is spend the next 7 minutes or so going over some of the basics about social media. Marco, would you do me the favor? Thank you. So just for those of you who might be skeptical, I do want to mention that people are spending an increasing amount of time on social media. So across the world, the average person spends 2.5 hours on social media each day. And in the US, 82% of people are on social media. So for small businesses, it offers you a way to compete, to get your word out there. You can compete with even large companies. People are often interested in what's going on locally. And it allows you another way to build relationships with customers. So a lot of us feel that it is very necessary to at least, register your business name for your website and have the social media channels and at the ready. If you're interested in kind of like the platforms that are out there, we could go to the next slide. Some of what we'll go into is the different channels, but even before then, there's probably 3 terms that I would want you to know. So one is engagement, and that's when you post something, what are the ways that people interact with your post? So it's a bit of kind of the easiest measure in social media is to look at things like likes, comments, shares, whether people are mentioning your account and tagging you. And so when you start to see more engagement, it shows that your post, the content is reaching people out there and that it's resonating with them. Beyond that, though, there are ways, kind of like Jeanette has mentioned, where you can expand out who sees your posts. So obviously you might have followers on your channels, but that is when you might decide to pay as little as $5 to have the outlet promote your post to more people. So a post that you put on that you don't invest in is called organic, where it's just people come across it. Either they follow you or they somehow stumble on your page. And then the other ways to boost a post. And then lastly, it's really important when you start this journey that you think of what are the desired actions that you want viewers to take. So this is called a conversion in social media speak. So you might have goals, which could be to share your post or to reply. Obviously, it could be to visit or to make a purchase. But sometimes it's kind of a level of engagement where you're trying to funnel people to that purchase, and there might be other steps they need to take. So for example, I heard from Jeanette that she often includes a call to action in her posts so that people have something they can do. So she had mentioned that she might mention, check out our menu, and then links to it on her website. So that might get people at least more familiar with the business. They may not purchase, but at least they can take a look and decide, you know, what's on the menu and get impressed, and maybe decide that's the next time they're going to go to a restaurant, that's the one they're going to go to. I appreciated hearing from Jeanette too, that she sometimes uses the posts to ask people to take action in person, like repeat a promo code or to enter a contest. So we're ready for the next slide. So I would advise that once you figure out who your audience is, then you choose a social media outlet. You don't have to be on all of them. It really varies depending on your business. So for example, if you're a one-person consultant who gives advice to other businesses. So for example, Jeanette mentioned her cousin who's a graphic designer. So that graphic designer might want to post mostly on LinkedIn, where she's getting to decision makers who have their own businesses. It sounds like Jeanette's on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook, even though it's in some ways we hear of other outlets becoming more and more popular, Facebook really does have the most range. A lot of different demographic groups are there. It can be a one-stop shop, so it's an easy way to start if you just want to test things out. And it's pretty easy to start a business account and to slowly decide, you know, if I did do an ad, what would it look like? Instagram is also owned by the same owner as Facebook. Instagram is different in that it's really focused on visuals, photos in particular, as well as 60-second or less videos. So this could be really good if you're in the film, food, or fashion industry. Most of the users are relatively young, under 34. And then TikTok has an even younger age group. That one is specific for film. So you pretty much have to record yourself. You have to be creative and invest in thinking through what it is you're going to say in your video before you post. And then Pinterest is good, especially if you want to reach women under age 34. So that's a little bit about some of the primary channels out there. Ready for the next slide. So as you think about posts, I want to just make a couple, just want to let you know that video is really an important way to get more eyes on your content. Video posts tend to attract many more viewers than a text-based post. So if you're only writing something about your business and there's no accompanying image, especially video, it tends to get fewer views. That's because a lot of these outlets their algorithms, which choose content to highlight, they really like video. It does not mean that every post needs to be video, but it can be important to, on occasion, think about using video or even slideshows. Like Instagram and Facebook will help you take a group of photos and kind of animate them where there's some movement and it's eye-catching, and then it will get elevated into their video category. Other ideas, just, you know, make sure you're really thinking about quality. So I'm sure when Jeanette's posting her food photos, she has to think about lighting and presentation. It's not a good idea to put your food in, you know, a dark room and not have it look amazing. So a little bit of consideration to aesthetics is important. One other thing that's really popular on social media is just kind of giving people an insider look at what's going on. So maybe talking to the audience in a video about why you started the business, who you are, what matters to you. For example, in a restaurant, maybe you would showcase a chef or take a couple photos of the staff doing what they do. Maybe not so much in the dining room, but in the kitchen or elsewhere. And also highlighting reviews or testimonials when you get really good ones. I'm curious, Jeanette brought up a couple others that I don't necessarily have in here, but she does mention partnerships. And I have found that very helpful, where I sometimes will make an arrangement with a fellow business or complementary business, and we both agree to co-post and tag each other. And that way you're reaching their audience and they're reaching yours. Okay, next slide. So I'd love to have Theo and Jeanette join me for this part of the conversation. We're going to spend a few minutes talking about mistakes and things that sometimes people do that kind of can undercut their goals. So a lot of business owners are obviously wanting to get a bigger customer base and promote themselves and what they have to offer. So again, that first line there is from Theo. Advertising to everyone is advertising to no one. I'm curious, Theo, what can you share about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much so that it's when you talk, in my experience, when you talk sort of in general terms, people just let it go over their head. Versus if you put yourself in your client or customer's shoes and, you know, try to do your best to speak to them directly, one person directly, what happens is you, for one, you perk their ears up because you're speaking their language, you're telling things that are getting them excited. And there are also, you know, a whole circle of people just like them, similar to them. And so they're able to pick up on that. And then eventually you work your way out. So in that case, when you do your best to talk to one singular person or two, you know, people, then it becomes much more effective, and you're able to focus your message and your efforts to those people. Even if eventually you want to cater to everyone, but you know, to get started and to get the ball rolling, yeah, it's definitely easiest to talk to one person first.
So Jeanette mentioned that she has a regular schedule. And essentially this is just one mistake to avoid is don't post once and then wait a month and post again. So you sort of need to commit to build up your audience and for them to know what to expect from you. So again, similarly, it's don't be inconsistent. So try to post regularly and use a consistent tone. I'm curious, Jeanette, if any of these first few tips resonate for you. There's even one here about, you know, make sure you review for spelling and accuracy and quality.
Yeah, so definitely, whenever you post a picture or a video and you want to describe what you're showing, make sure that it's the correct item. I've actually done that before, where I think I posted, like, for example, a bistec ranchero, and then I confused it with another item, like I forgot the name, but always make sure that you are posting, you know, the correct item, or like the name, like the spelling, that also counts a lot. So just double check, you know, always try to make sure it's right.
And then this couple last ones, we say, don't give up, be realistic with your goals. Social media is definitely kind of like having a garden. You know, you have to tend to it, water it, test out different things. One plant will like one spot in a room and another will hate it. So it's kind of like you have to kind of build up your practice and you learn as you go. I'm curious if either Jeanette or Theo has anything to add there about marketing and kind of the commitment it takes and the learning it takes.
So always try to, whenever you post anything, whether it's a video or photo, try to give the customer something to click on, something like the next step. Like, for example, if I'm posting a catering that we're doing, I always try to link the website, because that website link leads to the inquiry page where they can enter their information. Or for example, if I post a food item, I always try to include the food order. It's the link, so that once you click on it, it goes straight to the online ordering website.
And then for me, in terms of growth, it definitely takes trying things. And, you know, although we're pushing for high quality and, you know, all these things being consistent, I think if that is stopping you from posting, I would eliminate all of that. And I would just get out there, try things, pay attention to things that get you excited, pay attention to things that similar businesses are doing. Again, when you turn inwards and you sort of dig deep as to what these values and what this personality of your brand is, it becomes easier to make the decisions as to what content makes sense for you and the business and what you're promoting and things like that. But staying consistent, it's not everything's going to work. And I think that's the magic of social media. It's the strangest things that'll tick off the algorithm, but definitely not giving up, trying new things, and being open to finding out what other, like to Jeanette's point, asking for help and not being afraid. In my experience with the community, it's always community over competition. People are much so willing to give you advice, you know, without the fear of, you know, oh, you're gonna outsell me, or you're gonna sell more than me. It's more like we all want to win. We all know what this feels like. And it's tough. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's easy. It's definitely a really challenging task to take on social media, but it is meant to be fun. It is meant to, you know, to generate business. So having fun with it, keeping it social, interacting as much as you can, building community is where a lot of the success comes in social media. You know, with all these things considered.
Wonderful. And with that, we're at our Q&A period. I'd love to know if any questions have come in, Marco.
Yeah, let me check that. Oh. Yeah. So we have 4.
Great.
So the first one is, okay. So it comes from Julie Pacheco and is, how can asking follower to tag our organization and their posts help in making content go viral? Are there any examples of this working well based on your experience?
Yeah, well, so going viral is, you know, sometimes luck of the draw. But I will sometimes ask if I'm posting for an organization, and I know I'll ask them, who are your community partners? And maybe I will tag all the partners. Or I could contact them if I have time and it's a really special occasion, contact them ahead of time and let them know I'm hoping to post this content on this day. Could you repost it or reshare it? So sometimes DMing people can be helpful. For example, if it's in San Pablo, you know, for example, if Jeanette had been there, I could see like trying to gather other restaurants together to do a restaurant week. And sometimes hosting various partners who are trying to accomplish the same goal, which might be, you know, inviting people to come into the community to eat at one of these local restaurants. So it just takes communication with the partners, and making sure that you follow them and they follow you, so you can tag. I'm curious if Jeanette or Theo have any advice.
Yeah, I think the virality part of it is extremely tough. You have content creators that have produced hundreds of videos and it was the 101 video that made it. And then there's people that all of a sudden just got lucky, and it really comes down to the right combination. And I would also suggest being careful, because you don't want to go viral for the wrong thing just because you want it to be trendy, or you want it, to go viral that bad. I think staying true to yourself, staying authentic to your brand and your voice, and then finding a viral piece of content that makes sense for you, and being as consistent as possible, because you never know which one's going to hit. I think asking people to share it will only go so far. And I think that's a great way to build community. I don't necessarily think that that's the way to go viral, but it definitely helps spread your message and get your content out to more people.
Marco, what's the next question?
The next question comes from Julie Pacheco, and what tools or resources do you recommend for staying updated on the latest marketing trends?
I think one of the good or a good way to use the stories or post something, it's always use a trending song. Use like the trending something that a lot of people are using at the moment. And what I've noticed is that songs kind of give you that extra, help to show your product in a nicer or a more fun way, more creative way, I guess you could say. So definitely use like trending songs on your social media post. What else? Like I mentioned before, always add your links to either your website or your food ordering site. Tag if you have DoorDash, if you have Grubhub, always you want to tag them. You want to also like maybe share a story, right? Like people like to hear stories. So tell them like what drives you or how did you get started. Talk about what purpose you can serve them. So that's what I do for my social media platforms.
And then for me, in terms of staying updated on the actual trends themselves, I think Instagram, anywhere where there's content, being able to, bounce that idea off of it and see what's working for other people, as long as it aligns with your values and the style of business you are. And, to Jeanette's point, I think, some of the sounds and the music that's trending definitely helps. But again, I would just be mindful of, is it appropriate for your audience and your people? Because the trends definitely cater to certain audiences and certain types of people. So if you feel like it doesn't, then I feel like it doesn't make sense. Because again, you might go viral for the wrong reasons, under the wrong values, and attract the wrong people. So as long as it all aligns, I definitely would encourage that as much as possible.
And then I agree that sometimes, going onto Instagram, even TikTok, even if you're a business that's going for more mature audiences, sometimes seeing how people present themselves can be fun and inspiring. Since I focus more on organizations that are a bit established, I will look at blogs, especially sometimes they have some good ones on like Hootsuite or some of the companies that help you post to multiple sites at once. They often have a strong like marketing and research arm, and they will post. LinkedIn also can have good examples and data of like what kinds of posts work. And you might also want to think about SEO, or when people are searching for something on the web, what are the words, the keywords that are most important, and sometimes making sure you're including that in your post. So for example, if you're a restaurant, making sure you put in restaurant in your post somewhere, and just, you know, allowing people who are searching to find you.
Thank you all for sharing. The next one is, should I buy a camera to film for social media or use my phone? And I think Theo was answering that. So typing, but anyone can chime in.
Oh yeah, I was just I think it doesn't necessarily matter to a certain extent. Me personally, I enjoy working with a photographer who is experienced in that and knows what they're doing. But again, if you don't have access to that, you don't have the capability of editing photos and taking photos to that caliber, then your phone, the camera on the phone these days will definitely do the job. Videos, all super high resolution for the most part. And social media platforms, they tend to reduce the resolution on it anyway. So I feel like the phone is definitely a great tool if you don't have access or, you know, are worried about the cost for a camera and the editing time, things like that.
And then I see a couple questions here about font and colors, and you know, do you use variety of colors each time, or do you kind of keep it consistent in terms of the aesthetics of a post? I generally would be of the mind to say that it is important to pick what colors represent your business and to stay consistent, because it gives visual identity. So someone will kind of start to recognize it as your business when it's presented in certain colors. And while I don't think you necessarily have to have each post be perfect, you know, and be the most beautiful thing ever, it is important that you do think about videos and flyer quality or using Canva to create an image. So I think people will sometimes appreciate authenticity and some care. So however you can represent that, I think it is important to keep those values in mind, especially if you have competition. So quality can help you rise above the rest.
And then just to add to that, I use, sometimes I change colors, but I stay always with the same logo. I don't know if you noticed, like in some posts, I will have, let's just say, pink and white, like for Valentine's Day, but then it's always the same logo. So, you know, try to keep your same logo. Like once you create it, try to keep it like wherever. We've only changed it once, and that's because when my dad opened Castillo's restaurant, he did something very basic, you know, very it like I think honestly, I don't even think he got a professional designer to design his logo. But you know, that was back then when he didn't have the resources, he didn't, you know, he wasn't an expert, you know, at opening a restaurant. He never went to school for it or even, you know, got classes. Everything he knows is from experience because of working in the restaurant industry for many years. And then what obviously my parents gave me the opportunity to go to school, and you know, I took marketing classes. That's when I obviously decided that I was going to change the logo, but it was going to be something that represented us. And also, like I mentioned before, it represents our hometown, which is Puebla, Mexico. And that's what I wanted to have in my logo. And I think we did a good job. So yeah.
Well, I know we've reached the end of our time together. I just want to thank our panelists and the audience. It's been really wonderful to hear your questions, and I hope this is helpful. Marco, any last comments?
Yeah, no, want to thank everyone. Panelists Jeanette, Dale, Alexandra, thank you so much. Full air. I will leave my information here for a couple seconds. So my name is Marco. I'm the business program coordinator. If you have any questions in regards to the webinar or any questions business related, my email is marco@sanpaulobdc.org and my phone number is 510-215-3204. With that being said, we conclude this webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye-bye.